So I saw an interview on, I think I saw a Knowles Learning Theory. I saw like an article the other day, or an article today. And it was about the Knowles Learning Theory, and they're talking about, like, they're making a new article, but I don't know which article it was, but, and and it's basically like saying, well, how adults learn is different from how kids learn, and it suddenly occurred to me, do we even know? Because I am an advocate for peaceful parenting. Do we even know how to learn at this point in time? Because honestly, if we peaceful parenting, we would have known that how kids and adults learn are basically the same. I was kind of hoping and assuming people already knew that and just don't care. But I think people actually believe the lie. I think this is on some big syndicated newsstand. I don't remember, NPR, whatever the hell it is. It's like, I'll tell you the truth. No, right? There's a theory. It's like, oh, you need to learn something, right? It's like, well, everyone needs to learn something. That's how you learn anything, right? Look at Elon Musk's story when he was a kid, right? Started SpaceX. He needed to learn this because he couldn't hold a job, right? If you believe the story. And just like, look, if you want to be someone who's for corporal spanking, and why do I have to cover this? Because I'm a leftist. I'm allowed to. Socially allowed to. Conservatives like shooting themselves in the foot. Their favorite hobby. At least on this topic. They don't know when to stop, right? Right, so if you're gonna, so this is one of those issues where it's like, okay, so, and then there's others like, well, you need to be willing, you need to be curious. It's like, you don't need to be curious, right? You need to learn it. You don't have to be curious about anything, right? I saw that in one of the articles. Anyways, I'll look it up later because I'm doing short blurbs and short scoots because I don't have time to talk about this. I don't have time for anything these days. Yeah, so but the thing is, I'm not even getting paid to do any of this, right? Yeah, there's no worth in what I'm doing. Apparently, Pewd's vids are worth more. So, I don't know. I'm gonna have to switch strategy. Right? I don't really take society too credibly these days. Right? I don't take people who put on trending, but, you know, they do make the rules, right? Even though they don't give any useful advice. They just block your way. They're like, society in its current incantation is just a roadblock, right? It's not really worth you. At this point, it's more like when to break the rules, and when to follow them. It used to not be like that, right? It used to be like you just follow the rules. Right, why do you think Joshua Fluke's getting popular? Right, why do you think his phenomenon's a thing? Because no one's following social rules, right? Economies run from the ground up, right? If you don't follow social rules, then job requirements don't mean anything. And a lot of people like taking advantage of stuff, right? When you pirate stuff, right? Employers start thinking, well, now it's acceptable to lie about my job requirements. You see where things kind of go south, right? If I can get music for free, right, on Zoomies, that means I can lie on my job. I can lie as a job recruiter. I can lie. It's acceptable for me to lie, right? That's kind of how it all boiled down with piracy, and it goes down with people like, well, you know, do as I say, not what I do, right? Because a lot of parents enforce it. That means, well, the employer's like, well, that means I can lie about, I can lie about basically anything under the sun, right? Like, well, my parents lie, why can't I? I always focus on this topic because I am a leftist. I am privileged to talk about this. Right, well, the right just kind of gaslights themselves on this topic. Right, right? Everything starts small. Family units start small. Now once I can talk about peaceful parenting, I can talk about like sustainable business models that make the rich richer, right? Without delving into politics. Right? Nothing matters. The Second Amendment, Third, none of those matter. Peaceful parenting, only thing that matters in terms of sustainable economic business models. At least that's what I've researched. Because I'll tell you a little secret. Omnibus bills, beautiful invention if you know how to use them. Did you know with an omnibus bill, the anti-Second Amendment gun control could actually mean no gun control? Just have confusing paperwork. We all know what this game is. Right? If you know how to raise a militant, right? They know how to create really efficient omnibus bills that just skewer the laws, right? With the invention of legal paperwork, none of these amendments mean anything. None of it means anything whatsoever. Yes, omnibus bills means none of the laws mean anything. And the omnibus bills are a product of a society that does not follow anything consistently from the ground up, right? From parenting to everything else, to purchasing decisions. It just trickles down and people don't pay attention, right? Because, and I thought about this when I was looking at computer programming, right? One syntax error can break the entire system. You ever notice? It's called the ripple effect for a reason. Right? And then once you make one syntax error, you have to make a bunch of exceptional clauses, right? You have to add additional code to like cover the syntax error. You know what I mean, right? Right? Add more patches if you want to allow that syntax error to keep happening. Right? Because you're trying to lie, right? About what's going on. Now, if you tell the truth, right, paperwork remains minimum. So if you're wondering why we have long W-2 work clause contracts, because we're hiring based on the true or false assumptions. I might as well tell the truth because I don't know how long I have left to live. And I wanted to go to school so I can get a higher paying job because I don't like dealing with people who just think on the lower end of the spectrum. Like, I don't like highly intelligent people, too, because they're dumb on a lot of areas, too. Don't get me wrong, but, like, in general, in terms of, do I function, right? Because intelligent people are idiots in other areas. Do not get me wrong on that. But I'd much rather have coffee with a programmer, even if they electronically whip me when I ask too many CS help or CS problem. They know when to stop. Yeah, the warehouse workers, it's like, I'm complaining about everything. They don't know where their position on the chessboard is. Right? It's like, well, you want to be part of a union, you gotta know you gotta provide a service, right? Well, you can't just complain to HR all the time, right? Right? This is kind of one of those things where you just don't understand how life works. Right? Ever wonder why unions are in construction industry? They need people who are Spartans, right? Amazon's like your basic training ground. If you can't get there without complaining, you're not going to go be able to join or form a union. If anything, the unions are going to join Amazon and like stab the workers in the back to make extra cash. Because they need a training ground and create soldiers. I keep talking about this. You can't create foot soldiers, there's no point in having an effective union. That's why I'm saying because Amazon just hires workers free of charge, right? What that means is, right? What that means is if you hire soldiers free of charge, right? You can get stuff. Like, not free of charge, but I mean like no job requirements. That's a lot of potential right there. Right? The first employer that does that basically monopolizes the economy. Because a lot of the job requirements are bogus, right? And it's because of the way our society is structured, right? Lindsay, a lot of the job requirements, in my opinion, are bogus because we like to lie a lot in society, right? Right? Oh, you ever seen these bullshit complaints like, oh, your hair's done wrong, right? It's messy. You know they're talking about something else. Right? You know they're talking about like, oh, you just said something wrong to me, or you pissed me off because of some money argument, right? Something that makes people ghost each other, right? Ever notice all child and parent conflicts are also present in parent and social situations too between two adults, and they make each other ghost each other? You didn't know that, did you? Yeah, well, look at it. There's like a symmetrical line. As a leftist, I get to be the unlikable one. And it's socially acceptable. If you're a right-winger, you can't talk about this at all. You can't even talk about homeschooling. I talk about the only things that matter. Trying to kiss the richest butt and make them richer. Everyone else just likes being distracted by the Seahawks game. So, here's the thing. I'm assuming society is mature. They understand they're just living the lie. And they'd rather not face the truth, and that's fine. I'm assuming, like, Biden was elected rationally. Yeah, I just assume that happened, and everything functioned. I'm an SJW. I get to be that screecher, right? Where's my ban button when I need it, right? There's plenty of chameleons in every party. I'm being open about it. I think you need me. Chameleons are worth more if they get stuff done. And if the other party doesn't get anything done, they just do photo shoots, you might as well not, right? As a chameleon, I will be your idealist. I'm just giving you a more cash out option when we can go, if you want to morph into a right fag, right? Right, of course, everyone has a different storyline. So, yeah, the sustainable strategy for banks, putting out, anyone who's like got six figures, retires rich, if they want to do things credibly and not break the rules, it's going to be a credit union. Because small credit unions are the ones that make the offshore bank accounts. It's not the big banks. It never was. Because small credit unions, you wonder why they function. They have to compete somehow. And the really hypocritical thing of big banks is they're the ones, the central banks, they're the ones that made the small credit unions in the first place. Because they needed something more trustworthy than them. If you're a smart liar, right? I don't really want to play the social points game where I just chat with everyone. I can't do that. If I could, I probably would have moved up in the office by now. Yeah, they all do that, actually. Right, I like people I can talk to, I like, but not produce results. We completely forgot the other half of the coin. The only coin that matters, side of the coin that matters. Right, anyone who wonders, and I thought, so I looked at politics, I used to think it was just the office, but then I go outside, look at politics, like, huh. Actually, they actually believe what's in the office. I like to believe in the illusion, not believe that society actually believes the lie. Where's my Call of Duty when I need it? Duty calls to ignore reality. Right, as an SJW, I'm so stupid, right? I'm immature. It's acceptable now to be a hypocrite. Right? I too can get my right-wing side of the Kool-Aid while being the left-wing version of Anita Sarkeesian. Why be right? Or why be a left-winger, right? Oh, I get to be a progressive, but I don't get to enjoy my slice of the pie of having the option of being a hypocrite, right? So I can live more comfortably. Right? Or I'm a right-winger. I don't get the option of being a progressive on some issues, right? Who doesn't want to be openly honest without being socially attacked? Right? While hiding behind the mask of being an idiot. Oh no, it's one of the best cards ever. Now, I'm obviously going to tie my shoelaces perfectly because, right, there's a bunch of people in both sides, right? Even within the SJWs who are just genuinely dumb and don't give you any money, right? They're freeloaders. Got to be cautious. make your shoelaces neat. There's a lot of people that just take advantage of the party they join, right? They don't think you need them, or else what they do is they steal your merchandise, right? That helps start the movement and burn it down. That's why you have followers. I talked about this before. Yes, so let's say, I'll give you an example. Let's say along the left, let's be a little fair here. That's what at the risk of being attacked. Let's say you have a left winger. It's started by SJWs. You have like 40% of your base, which are just normies, right? You know what I'm talking about. Let's say you do not include them because they're not paying for your operations. You know what happens because they want to feel like they belong? They burn your shit. Okay, so parties and social gatherings, anything like that, they're designed as an insurance policy. People forgot about that back then. So when you're trying to call people out, do not think of it as you're going to lose money, right? Because you need to figure out if they're actually giving you money in the first place. What you need to think about is how to minimize your liabilities when you include people in your party. And so how do you reduce your liability, your risk insurance pool, right? And if you're an SJW, you got to think about this. You got to include them because they need to be watched somehow, because calling the cops to guard you, isn't that too expensive at some point? So that 40% needs to be monitored somehow. So what you do is you say, hey, join my party. I'm really leading a movement for change. You don't tell the truth. You tell the truth the first time through spam mail in today's era, right? And then when you actually meet up, you don't tell the truth. Protects you from liability. Right, 40 to like, probably eventually the majority are like that, just freeloaders. Right? Think about video games. Remember how many games you can pirate? How popular is piracy? Like with any video game, you have to think of it as your business model, like a video game model, right? Yeah, so let's think about it. You got to make sure that these people don't start. Think about it. People die for political ideologies. You don't think they're not going to reuse that energy to start looting your stuff? Right? Think about Epstein, right? You don't have to do his thing. If you have moral issues, problems with it, but you got to think about it. Epstein had followers because they're going to attack him, right? Right. Where do you think the Sodom and Gomorrah story came from in the Bible, right? We need to look at history a little bit. Because at this point in time, I'm certain that the exact same variables that did a repeat of Sodom and Gomorrah are present in the SJW movement. Right? It's exactly the same. Right? When it comes to including new members, because that's a process like adding new people in a tribe or a cult or anything like that, or a group. It's the same variables. Very, very much the same. I'm pretty certain of it anyways. So anytime I say history repeats itself, I'm always studying to make sure the exact variables that were present back then to get people to join a group. Broadly speaking, that it's the same. Now, whenever people say history repeats itself, they just say it blanket. They don't think about it. That's why history never repeats itself, because they don't really know what the exact variables were. No one knew what the exact macro and micro variables are. People don't really understand how populists rose to power, which is why I don't believe them saying history repeats itself by the Republicans. Or anyone, for that matter. I've actually took the time to study this. Right, history did repeat itself, does not repeat it. So the term history does not repeat itself works if the variables are the exact, if they're a little slightly different. It does not repeat, right? You saw it did not repeat itself with Donald because you don't understand the variables that gave rise to certain people. So obviously you're going to get a different outcome. You see what's going on? Right? He became Hitler. Well, you know the exact variables that led to Hitler? You can put a commercial ad, that's fine. If you're going to treat it as a political attack to take down a party, that's fine. But you have to remember what the truth is, right? And the truth is you don't know what the exact variables ever were, right? You want to know how to get it? You do a bi-directional, cross-sectional study, I think. Or a longitudinal study done over a span of like a decade. With control groups, right? And manipulated groups, right? I think that's what you call it. right? And you try to test to see how they respond. And you start small. You test in certain social situations, right? Where you're trying to see how people change their minds, essentially. Over a 10-year study, and see how liberals or go to conservative or conservative go to liberals, vice versa, right? You see, what are the variables that convince people to switch sides? I almost guarantee you'll understand that what made populists rise is not what you think it is. So you can't say history repeats itself, and that disproves it. Because you yourself do not quite understand what it is. And the only way you can repeat that study is you have to understand what are the precise variables. You have to be exact in that exact time and place. Right? And talk to those respondents. So you can carry an aggregate data, which consists of polls, right? The polls give you the aggregation. If you can't dig through those old records, you don't really know what makes history repeat itself. There's no understanding. You start a party, so you protect yourself. You do not start a party because you want to like become more powerful and stronger. You do it as an insurance policy. Because people will loot stuff. You ever remember what happens with plasma screen TVs in Walmart? They just attack the building. They really want it more than, when you prioritize something more than food, more than renting, and that is an ideology. And you won't let them join them, they will attack. People did back then, and it's not going to change anytime soon. It just gets worse with modern firepower, of course. Right? Minus hey, join the Democrat Party. Now you understand it's got a different context. And that's why that's why I'm always skeptical whenever people say, this is part of the Democrats, right? What does that mean? Oh, this is part of the Republicans. What does that mean? Are you talking about the people who actually start the operations? Or are you talking about the people who actually buy stuff for the campaign? I'm talking about people who don't buy anything, so they have no vested interest in looking clean, right? So think about it. When you buy gear from people, don't you have a vested interest in making the brand associated with that product look as sexy as possible? You don't see that, right? Or is the guy who doesn't buy stuff more likely to do retarded stuff? Because he has no real investment. When you have an investment in something, you actually make better decisions, don't you? In terms of enhancing that brand. So anyways, that's what I'm going to talk about. I have to keep